Well, something that you talk a lot about is the process of healing and how in order to start to do that, you have to share your story.
Not
Um,
for silence because the secrets make you sick.
yeah. So how did you first begin to share and heal, and what is sort of your advice on that for others?
Oh, it's been such a long journey, and the healing is like I say, peeling back the layers of onion. You
Mhm.
think you've healed, and oh my goodness, here comes another layer. So I've been on this journey for about 40 years. So I would say my faith has been the greatest impetus to my healing. Just trusting God with the pain and being okay to not be okay. You know,
Mm.
I think we all want to have it all together all the time, but if you're a mess, sometimes you got to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough.
Mm.
So, I think to get to that maturity to really allow myself to grieve my childhood, to grieve lost relationships, to grieve what happened to that little girl, and really allow her an opportunity to heal in safety because I never really felt safe.
Mhm.
And to really, analyze myself and understand, my response mechanisms and how they were triggered and why they were triggered, and just kind of dissect and really become the woman and the mother and the wife that I wanted to be. So it's been very much a journey, but I would say number one, my faith. I would say number two, I took a courageous step back in 1993, and I wrote an editorial to the Atlanta Journal Constitution, and I never thought they would publish it. Back then the subject was a thousand more times stigmatized and taboo, but they
Yeah.
published it. So
Wow.
here I was in the Atlanta Journal with my first article, and I kind of just like, okay, I guess I broke my silence. Like it's out
Yeah.
there. And then God just laid on my heart as I was going through my healing. I've always journaled. I journaled my whole life, so I just started writing, and that
Mm.
writing just became my memoir, From Sorrows to Sapphires. So that was my first book about letting the little girl tell the story, and
Okay.
I did it in such a creative way that was God inspired. I was in intensive therapy at Charter Peachford, and my therapist said, "You've got to learn how to be by yourself and how to like yourself,"
Mhm.
because I always busied myself. It's like I overworked, and I
Yeah.
was like super mom and super wife, and I filled myself with so much that I didn't give myself space and time. And that's another advice I would have, to give yourself the space and the time that you need to heal. And it
Yeah.
might not happen overnight. It might be 40 years like it was for me, but give yourself that space and time. So she said, "You need to go away." So I booked a whitewater rafting trip, and I had never been whitewater rafting. So I booked a class five, thinking it was a scale of 1 to 10. But a class five was the most severe rapid you could go
Oh
down.
my
So
gosh.
my book starts on this whitewater rafting trip where I'm terrified. So once again, I'm in a place of fear. And
Oh.
as I am rolling down the river on this raft, the little girl goes back in time and she begins to tell the story. So you hear both voices. You hear my present struggling to get down this river, and then you hear the little
Ooh.
girl struggling to get through her day.
Oh my
So
gosh.
my
That's so
farewell.
creative.
It was God. It was just when I finished the book, people are like, "How in the world?" And I was like, God just really inspired that. So,
Wow.
so I take you to the place. I try not to be graphic in the book, but I take you to the place where you can't breathe. The little girl can't really breathe, and you can't breathe for her. And then I take you back to the river where it's kind of really comical that this 40-year-old woman's trying to make it down this rapid.
Oh
I
my
wasn't quite
gosh.
that. I think I was 35, but yeah.
I need to read that. That sounds so good. Oh,
This
wow.
is um, this is From Sorrows to Sapphires. This was my first book.
Okay, beautiful. And you wrote
Yes.
that one, you said, in your 40s?
Actually, I was in I started it. It took me a long time to publish it. I actually published it when I was 40, a little after 40. But I started writing it around 35.
Okay, I relate to that. I've been working on mine a couple years. I'm like, I'll probably still be working on it for another 5, to be honest.
It's not ready till God says it's ready. So don't rush it,
Yeah.
because once you put it out there, once it's published, you go through all the work of editing it, and you just don't want to touch it again. So
Yeah.
I think, and honestly, it's so cathartic to write a book because I don't
Yes.
have to visit those memories anymore. Like, if you know how kind of the reel in our minds, the videotape keeps playing. Writing a book is that eject button, because if I ever want to
Mm.
visit what the little girl went through, I just have to pick up this book. It's all in here. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's
That's
very
so
healing.
good. I was
Yeah.
telling my husband that, and that's actually why I had to take a couple year break after I first started. I wrote the first draft and then I didn't look at that thing for a while, and I was like, it was such a therapeutic process to write everything down, and I don't know that right now the book itself honors God, just because I was just kinda getting everything out there. I was like, "So I'm gonna come back and rewrite it and keep learning how to honor God and telling the story." But
Yeah.
you're so right, like, getting it out there is such a therapeutic
Mhm.
process, and I never thought about that. It's like hitting the eject button so you don't have to keep living those
Right.
memories because now you got it out there.
There's more room on the outside than there is on the inside. I tell people that all the time. So you
Mm,
don't have to keep it all stuffed down inside. You can let it out. But it took me about
wow.
5 years to write the book and get it published. So just
Okay.
give yourself the time and space. You'll hear me say that a lot, but I think
Yeah,
we all want to rush and we all have this timeline. There's no timeline.
amen. And so, okay, so this was a big part of your healing, and then when you met your husband, were you still you said you're still kinda going through this healing journey, so how did that look like within your marriage?
So he is the third impetus to my healing, the facilitator to my healing. His love, his compassion, his just care and concern and kindness, and he just wrapped me up and too gave me the space that I needed to heal. He's my Prince Charming. We've been married for years, and I love him to pieces. But
Aw.
when he met me, he knew there was a lot of pain inside. I mean, I was distant from my family. I worked 3 jobs. I was going to college full time. I really had a hard life. So he could tell immediately that there was dysfunction written all over my face.
Yeah,
Um, but he just fell in love with me, and it was just such a pure, sweet love. It started as a friendship, and that friendship grew.
okay.
And to the point where I started running from him and from because I was like, "You need a nice girl. I'm a mess. Like, you do not need any of this. Like, you
Yep.
need to go find a really nice girl that's going to make you happy and going to be your little Martha
Oh my
Stewart."
gosh.
I'm
Yes.
a hot mess. Like, I'm a hot mess. So I convinced him for us to just be friends. Like, we can be friends, but no more than that. And so I'll help you find a good girl. So I was trying to set him up. We'd go
Yes.
out and, he'd dance with other girls and I'd dance with other guys. And I just remember we were together at a sorority party, college, and there was a bonfire and that song came on, Angie, what you gonna do? I think I'm in love with you. I can't sing, but anyway,
Okay, okay.
he wrapped his arms around me because it was cold, and he just started singing that in my ear, and I was like, "Oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord, oh no!" And so he walked me back to my dorm, and he said, "I didn't mean to, but I fell in love with you."
Wow.
Boom, walked
Oh
away. I walked inside crying. I was like, "No,
Aw.
he can't fall in love with me." So he just melted my heart, and I can't say it's been easy, but he let me disclose the abuse in my own time and tell
Mhm.
him in my own time how horrible it was, and it hurt his heart.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just been such a beautiful love romance story that I've
Aw.
lived because I've really seen you say the Christ loves the church like his bride, and that's how my husband has loved me, and the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh
And
my
um,
gosh. That's
yeah,
amazing, and that's my wish for all of these, especially girls, but guys too, who have gone through something so horrific is that they would grow up and, A, first come to find Jesus's love and just the fullness of that, but then B, have a spouse who's just completely unlike, the traumatic parent or whoever else that they experience this trauma from because I totally get that. My husband is a complete opposite of my dad. He's a total sweetheart. I tried to run from him too in a similar way of like, "Oh my gosh, you need a nice girl who hasn't been through all this stuff." So I can relate to that.
so often it's the opposite. So often survivors of abuse, they run to the abuse of another
Mhm.
abuser. you know
Yeah.
Breaking that cycle was real important to me in my life. Just
Yes.
breaking the cycle off and not repeat that cycle for my children and my next generation.